Hello, today is the 14th of January 2008. I am Aviva Lee, reporting live in Jerusalem from room 903 for Israel 24/6 TV. Before proceeding to this Monday evening's edition of Fact Without Commentary, I would like to pose a few questions to my audience. This past week, journalists here in Israel received an official statement from the government press office, with a few itemizations of the continued terror tactics of the democratically elected government in the Gaza Strip. Of course, I refer to the democratically elected terrorist organization Hamas. Prior to preparing this edition of Fact Without Commentary, I reviewed the text of a few debates that were posted online after Hamas was elected by civilian Arab voters early in the year 2006. The website for NPR, for example, has a page dedicated to one of those debates which was held on that radio station after Hamas was democratically elected. Three panelists insisted that Hamas had been democratically elected and therefore Hamas was in fact no longer a terrorist organization. I would like to ask the following question to underscore the fallacy of that commentary. If Her Majesty, the Queen of England, ran for public office and was elected, would she in fact no longer be Queen by mere virtue of the fact that she had been elected? The answer is absolutely not. The Queen would in fact need to renounce the crown and all that pertains to that crown in order to no longer be queen. And that is the case with Hamas. Hamas was a terrorist organization prior to Arab civilian voters putting them into power democratically, and based upon their actions and public endorsements since being elected, even since being elected democratically, their identity has not changed. Unless or until Hamas renounces terror, even though being elected to office by Arab civilian voters, they will remain classified as terrorists. Does the election results of early 2006 negate Hamas as a terrorist organization, or does it underscore the true identity of the majority of the Arab civilian population which elected Hamas? Let's take a brief look at the continued terrorist activity which sprang from the Gaza Strip in the year 2007. In 2007, Hamas took over the Gaza Strip by force. Since Hamas has routed Fatah from the Gaza Strip, the world stands witness to continued hostility toward the sovereign state of Israel. Israel's official assessment of those hostilities is that there have been fewer successful deployments of suicide bombers and thus fewer deaths due to terrorism within the sovereign state of Israel. Israel's official report for 2007 credits the continued vigilance of the Israeli Security Agency, the Israel Defense Forces, and the Israel Police for that decrease in Israeli casualties, and the security fence erected to deter the infiltration of terrorists into Israel's civilian population has been officially credited also, as on many occasions this past year, as having fulfilled its intended purpose. In the year 2007, there was only one completed suicide terrorist attempt, and that was in Eilat on the 29th of January. Still, in that terror attack by an Arab suicide bomber, 3 Israeli civilians were killed. It is known that the suicide bomber was dispatched from the Gaza Strip jointly by the Islamic Jihad and the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigade. This past year, 2007, the terrorist groups in Judea and Samaria were unsuccessful in their attempts to deploy suicide bombers into Israel's civilian population. In the past year, more than 25 terrorist attacks were prevented. However, in the past year, the Gaza Strip was the prime location for the manufacture and deployment of terror into Israel. And of course, this was primarily accomplished through the use of Qassam rockets, mortars, and small arms fire. It is also known that the Arab terror infrastructure in Judea and Samaria did in fact seek the capability of launching missiles this past year. It is known that these terrorist groups sought the direct guidance of their Arab terrorist counterparts in the Gaza Strip. The sovereign state of Israel and those charged with the responsibility of protecting her citizens will continue in their official efforts of fighting terrorism in the Gaza Strip and the Judea and Samaria region. In fact, journalists received this official statement from the Israel Defense Force spokesperson last week concerning the IDF reaction to an increased onslaught of mortar shell fire from the Gaza Strip, and I quote, "The IDF carried out an aerial attack against a Hamas terrorist organization post in the southern Gaza Strip. The attack was carried out following the continuous firing of mortar shells at the Israeli communities in the western Negev, including the firing in recent days," end quote. Since January 1st, approximately 215 rockets and mortar shells were fired into Israel from the Arab terrorist contingency in the Gaza Strip. And that concludes this edition of Fact Without Commentary for this Monday evening recap. I am Aviva Lee, reporting live in Jerusalem from room 903 for Israel 24/6 TV. Please look for my further updates this week concerning the military actions taken by the sovereign state of Israel in her continued fight against terrorism. Thank you and shalom. Good night.